All right. My impact. Student feedback. This is the strategy that I chose to utilize for a project for this class. I chose this strategy because I wanted feedback from my students. I want to receive feedback and input from my students based on their engagement, their participation. I wanted to know what they thought, how they felt about my techniques and the strategies that I used in the classroom. I still consider myself a rookie when it comes to strategy development as a teacher. Uh, my first teaching experience kind of was here's the keys, there's your classroom, good luck. Um, did not go to school for teaching, so that kind of doubled the difficulty I had first starting out. Got into teaching through coaching, so most of what I've learned as a teacher has come from on the job experience. Classroom management being the biggest aspect of that. Working in inner city public schools, if you don't have classroom management, you can kiss your lesson playing goodbye. I have not spent much time asking for feedback from my classes in the past. Like I said, as I developed the style of classroom management I was using, it was more so of discipline, rigor, and making sure that the students stayed on task constantly. As I've grown as a teacher, I wanted to explore more strategies that my students would enjoy while still maintaining classroom discipline and rigor. I began this back in February. Uh, when I first started off teaching, I taught ninth grade biology and I did not do labs. Reason being was because when you teach in ninth grade in inner city, there are difficulties when it comes to doing labs. Primary thing is making sure that the environment is one where you feel safe, where you feel safe putting your class in there. Um, so again, going back to classroom management. So as I've grown over the years, I wanted to try to incorporate some type of labs into my class, and so this year I use a virtual lab. Uh, Actually discovered one that I used when I was in college. So I utilized virtual lab to try to gather to incorporate more student engagement, more participation. Had a lot of students that wanted to participate because to them it was fun. Um, but the thing that I struggled with was gathering feedback on the assignment in an organized manner. Uh, but I was able to have more participation. I began the second part of my study after Module 4's assignment, which gave me a survey that I wanted to use. I struggled with finding the questions that I wanted to use for a survey outside of just giving them kind of an open-ended question. I wanted to make sure it was more detailed. So I was able to find a survey. The survey I used was the Urban Student Evaluation of Accomplished Teaching Scale. It's a great survey, goes into much detail, and my anticipated results, I thought I would have some positive feedback. I still know that I have some weaknesses as a teacher as I try to grow and develop, uh, while still maintaining that rigor in classroom discipline. Um, Here are the results from the survey. You'll see a lot of questions put put in there twice as I was trying to screenshot them, try to get as many of them on the phone as I could. So you'll see kind of like this one, which is up here. Same for this one. Uh, so as I went through the survey, I did see a lot of positive feedback, a lot of strongly agree and agree. If we were to look at that holistically, if we just look at the agree section, you see that for most of the survey, a lot of them encompassed the whole chart, where they agreed and whether they strongly agree. Where I wanted to focus was the areas where one at least a third of that was neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. Now, unfortunately, I did have one student in particular who went through there and hit strongly disagree for everything. I doubt they even read the questions. But hey, it comes with the territory, so no harm, no foul. All right. But questions such as adjust the lesson if we experience difficulties in learning. All right. I tried to do this as best possible when it came to certain aspects of the lesson. Uh, Now, I only had 51 students that responded out of the 100 that I have for my classes, or 100 plus. Uh, but out of those 51, at least nearly 70% of them thought that I adjusted the lesson. Well, when I look back on over the year, I had at least 70% of the class that participated in the lesson. The other 30%, well, when they weren't in class, they they chose not to participate. And this is one of the things I wanted to definitely change about my classes. Wanted to try to at least get that to 80, 90% student engagement when it comes to the class. Uh, we as teachers, we always try to reach all of our students. Of course, I've experienced that. Hey, and sometimes it's just not possible. All right. Uh, but what I did want to do is utilize this survey more throughout the year, not just in at the end of the year. I wanted to be able to use it at the beginning of the year, throughout the year, in the middle of the year. Uh, things or questions such as challenges students think through and solve problems either by themselves or together as a group. Did not do a lot of group work this year. It was a lot more individual and a lot more me and the class. So I kind of left out that third wheel when it came to my class this past year. Um, Now, relationship between subject and the real world, I saw that this was probably the biggest area that I needed improvement in, because majority of these questions, you can see that at least a third was either neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. So I know that I need to do a better job of relating the real world to science, of course, and science is in the real world. One thing that I did in the past was I had students complete science articles, bring them in, do a presentation, try to work on them doing public speaking, because a lot of people don't are not comfortable getting up and speaking in front of public, and then getting the students to learn how to be an audience. That is, it may seem something that's redundant, something that they should know already, but when students get up there, somebody stumbles, they want to snicker and laugh and point fun. Uh, so that's one of the things I wanted to eliminate. Because when it was their turn, they didn't want anybody to say anything to them and so forth. So uh, that's one of the strategies I kind of got away from in the past, just because of how our class schedules were set up. So I wanted to definitely get back to that, because I know that that is one of the best ways to try to help students relate science to real life. When they see these different articles and they see different science articles, and they're able to relate them to different things and how they're impacted, how things around them are impacted, family, friends, the plants, animals in their environment. Um, it was a great way for students to become engaged in the world around them. All right, and here's that final chart. All right. So now, as far as results go, I wanted to be able to use this survey and gather student feedback throughout the year. Um, I did agree with Hattie that teachers who provide evidence that all students feel as though they have been invited into their classroom to learn effectively. This is a great way for teachers to gather intel on their students, a great way for students to feel as though, they matter to the teacher. A lot of times students don't feel that way. Uh, this invitation involves a feeling of respect, trust, optimism, and intervention to learning. When students respect, trust, and they feel positive about the class, they become more in tune to what the class is offering. They try more, they give more effort. And of course, when it comes down to grading nowadays, if a student tries, shoot, they can scrape by with a C. The more effort they put into it, the easier it is for them to pass their classes. Now, biggest thing is that students have the possibility to learn and grow in every class, and will help those who do not put forth effort in the class, and will also help teachers build relationships with their students. Uh, I would do this differently, because I would implement this at the each standard that we teach, or at the each 9 weeks. I want to be able to use this more often and to change my strategies up throughout the year. That way, I want students to come to class excited and ask, what are we doing today? What's uh what's on the agenda for today? They did that anyway, but I want them to know that, shoot, every 2 days will not be the same. Gathering students' opinions, my primary goal. There weren't any other strategies I recognized with the same value. And of course, like I said, this is just my opinion on the matter. All right. And lastly, we have I believe that everyone that utilizes this strategy for their classroom consistently, they will see an uptake in atmosphere in their classroom, improvement in their students' desires to improve, and the relationships with their students. This is a great strategy to use if you want to grow closer to your students, you want to learn your students, gathering their feedback. And of course, there's many different ways you can go about gathering your feedback, but overall, student feedback is one of the biggest impacts that I think that teachers can have in their classroom.